I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carey Stinson, and as always, I'm thrilled you're here. We are going to have so much fun today. These are a couple guys that we've got on that I kind of got learned about them through Danny Joe and Danny Joe's Treehouse. This is so much fun. I love these guys. You're going to love them. This is Max and Root, the Beatbox Dads. Max and Root, how are you? That is the appropriate way to come onto this show. How are you guys?
I am well. Thank you, Carey.
Yeah, I am feeling really good, and I'm really excited to be here. It's definitely an honor and a privilege. So thanks for having us.
Well, you're welcome, and it's an honor and privilege to have you guys on. I love what you're doing. You know, children's entertainment means the world to me. I spent so much time in it, and I love getting these stories out, and I love seeing something different. Your work just looks so much fun, but there's so many great messages through all of it. So I kind of want to start at the beginning, and Max, I'll let you go first. How did you get into all of this?
Well, we are the Beatbox Dads, and that is literally pretty much self-explanatory. We are in fact dads and beatboxers, and Root and I are both Baltimore residents, and we worked together. We sort of passed each other on a lot of different creative circles within the city's different events, and then finally we sort of connected through an opportunity to speak, believe it or not, at a creative mornings event in Baltimore, which was just like an incubator, a quick thing. People come, show up, drink coffee, talk, and they invited me to speak, and I was like, I better get somebody else here. So following my good instincts, I reached out, hoping that Root could join me, and sure enough, we were presenting together, and someone asked, so where can we see you guys perform? And we looked at each other, and we said, well...
Oh, no, you know what? It was, I forgot. I even remember the name of the young lady who asked, but of course I forget now. But she said, how do you all handle disagreements with each other?
Yes,
because I know you all have been working together for a long time.
That's it.
And then Max and I looked at each other and we said, we've been working with each other today. This is the first time ever working together intentionally, because we've collaborated and sat in sheds and jam sessions on the Baltimore scene, but we had never distinctly said, hey, this is our intention to work together specifically right now. We had never done that until that day. So when Max hit me up and said, hey, I'm doing something for Creative Mornings, I would love for you to do it with me, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Well, he seems like a pretty dope artist, and I think I do all right. So let's see what we can create together, because I knew we were both on the same roster for Young Audiences for Maryland, which is now Arts for Learning Maryland.
And that is also, that organization, Arts for Learning, is an organization that has had up to that point given Root and I tons of opportunities to go into schools, to work with teachers and students. So I guess being dads and being very close to, schools, it was sort of a natural extension to start writing some songs. But I think we were writing songs for an audience of 3, Root's 2 children and mine. And so that audience of 3 was a very important audience in the beginning, because we were it was new to us. I mean, this specific idea of writing children's music was somewhat new to me, and I think to Root as well. And so we didn't know at all what we were doing. We still don't, but at least we now have sort of like a larger audience, a larger sample size. But we got a lot of support from our kids early on, and being able to watch their reactions and hear them, how they responded to what we were making, gave us a lot of clues into like, all right, well, this works, this doesn't. And I think the other thing worth mentioning is that we are human beatboxers. So human beatboxing is this art form that exists in the liminal space between language and music. It's not exactly a language. It's not exactly music. I mean, it's kind of both. A lot of times when I'm beatboxing, I feel like I'm talking. Um, and so I think just sort of by the good graces of the universe, we we have this art form that is really kind of uniquely suited to speak to children because children understand it instinctually. A lot of adults, I think, respond to beatboxing sort of like in amazement or like in like, huh, like almost like that's not even possible, or almost like with skepticism, like that must be a trick or something. But
Yeah.
the children really understand it intuitively and they respond to it, even like, for example, pre-verbal children, you know. So it's a really awesome art form to be working with children.
Yeah. You said a mouthful, man. So I'll wait and see if Carey has anything else to say. So what you said was more than enough and very on point. So I'll let that lay there. I'll let that sizzle in your spirit for
Very
a little
well. I
bit.
love it. Root, we're going to get to you too, so don't worry about that. I will tell you, I love that. And, it's so interesting to me. And we've talked about this on this show before. Kids have the most amazing imaginations, right? And so they can understand all that and bring that all in. And it's unfortunate as we get older, it's almost like we're not allowed to imagine, and we kind of lose that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We lose those things. They're just reacting to what they understand and they love, right? It's as I did watching, for me, Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and the Electric Company. My gosh, I love those shows when I was a kid. And that
Absolutely.
kind of, I think, fueled me. I have to say this really quick. I think this is so cool that we're getting ready to set up for this interview, and Root just shows up from doing an event. You were just working with kids.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I just came from, I believe it's Judith P. Hoyer Montessori School out in Landover. Shout out to PG because those are my stomping grounds. I was born in
Landover.
Landover, Glenard, and Glenard. So, yeah, I lived on 85th Avenue. So shout out to my 85 boys out there, right next to the new Carrollton Metro station. Boom, boom. I don't even think it makes that sound anymore when you get on the train. I used to love that though, like opening it, doors closing. Boom, boom. I used to love that sound. Yeah, and they don't. And New York had a specific sound. Jersey has a specific sound. Pennsylvania has a specific sound. Even the Long Island Railroad, I was on that a couple times. They all have a certain sound. But my bad, I'm getting away a little bit. So yes, I was there, and it was so awesome because what I love to say at the end of every assembly that I have and most residencies, I tell all the students to repeat after me. And I've even started doing it with adults in professional development. I'll say, repeat after me. Say, I am important. I am valuable. My thoughts and ideas matter. And I will learn from my mistakes and the wisdom of others. I'm awesome. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think that mantra is really important to identify and very affirming and validating as we move forward, especially in a world that has so much information. Like, the information that children have right now, it's like a surplus of information. It's such a overly gratuitous amount of information. And not to say that it's not needed, but what is needed is the time to really process a lot of it. So what I really love about what Max and I do, we're very rudimentary outside of our technology of our loop station and our speaker and our microphones. Those are generally the three things that we have. And that's it. Like, we might have manipulatives for children to play with, but
Sure.
for the most part, it's just the power of our voice and the power of rhythm and the power of music. And we really take that charge of introducing children to the culture of hip hop through our art form very seriously. It's just fun, So like you had said about us earlier, um, children just viscerally respond to it. And the cool thing about Max and I is that we might have some campy moments, but we're not really corny, which is why I think adults find themselves like getting off their phones and looking to see what we're going to do. Because a lot of times when it's children's entertainment, and it's definitely not a slight to anybody who does children's
Right.
entertainment by any means, but sometimes parents feel that is a time to like unload their kids on you and for you to do a little bit of daycare for them until that hour is done or that 30-minute or 22-minute segment is done on television. And I, for one, and also Max, we love to bring people into our atmosphere and to our circumference, if you will, so they can be in orbit with us. and get that light, you know, and interact with it. It's very important. And we don't force it, but they're drawn into it.
Our
Well,
first shows,
I was sorry, man. I telling him earlier, you guys are authentic, and that's to me is the key to children's entertainment, right? You guys are who you are. I feel like I've watched these videos and I'm talking to you and I don't see any different. I see that vibe, right? I have met so many people in this wonderful industry, and all, you know, you get into some industries and they're not the people you hope they are. That is not the case in children's entertainment, right? We all got in this because we care and we love and we want to teach. And that message you're saying, Root, is just beautiful. You know, Barney did that back in the day, right? We were singing "I Love You" and "You Are Special," and we were pushing the importance of these kids. Barney was their friend, and he loved everyone.
Absolutely.
And boy, do we need this now. And I love artists like you that guys are getting out there and pushing these messages to these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to tell everyone about our first performances and what those were like. And they were very, for me, very foundational and formative, because we pretty much, you know, after that talk that we did, the Creative Mornings talk that we did, we were like, all right, let's set up some shows. I was inspired by this Boogie Babes series in Washington, D.C. that I performed at. And I remember it was, you know, amazing to see like a line of strollers, like a parking lot of strollers, and to see children in an open space, no seating. It was at the very famous Eastern Market in Southeast Washington, D.C., which is a beautiful place. And so I was blown away by this image of children of all different ages, but especially the little ones that were just instinctually moving freely through the space. And I was so refreshed by the fact that, you know, it was so different than a typical concert where people sit there and just sort of look at you. Or if you're lucky, they might dance a little bit. But, you know, this was the most beautiful energy I'd ever seen from an audience. And so I said, Root, we got to do it this way. So we partnered with the Single Carrot Theater in Baltimore. And we just had an open floor space, and we invited people to come, and it was really well attended. Like, I was kind of surprised, honestly, because nobody knew who we were, but people showed up. And that's when I realized, like, wow, there is a demand for this kind of entertainment where it's open-ended, it's inviting, and you know, for families specifically, families need places of sort of freedom. And again, I said it before, like open-ended exploration. And so we have been working on that idea ever since, where we can have, like in these shows, in the theaters, we would have all kinds of things that kids could play with, draw on, and you know, more recently we've been doing bigger shows and festivals and stuff like that. So things have changed a little bit, but I love to think back to those times when we were just doing these community theater shows. And I think that's really at the root of what we do, is like we hope that, like, we go on stage and we have a plan, maybe a set list, but every show we're writing a song. Like for one of the best ones that we wrote improvisationally was called "The One Shoe Crew," and this is a song that we haven't even put out yet. So the only way you can hear the song is if you come to our show. The problem is, if you come to our show, we're probably going to try to write a new song on the spot. So
Right.
You don't know what you're going to get if you come to see us. But we move around a lot, we jump around a lot, and we I think invite people to just explore wherever we are, just by how we are. And I think it's natural, like you said. It really is authentic to us, and it feels good for us to be that way. And
Absolutely.
And it's the opposite. Like if you put me in more of like a traditional concert environment, I don't feel that electricity moving through me, you know. So for both Root and I, it's like we're really, really well suited for this kind of stuff. Like, it makes us feel good.
Well, is it possible, as I'm thinking about this, could you give us a little bit of this so that we can actually show our audience here what we're talking about? Give them just a taste of this. And if you don't mind, you know, it's what you've done. Can I just give you a letter? Can we do a little bit of that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So how about we go only appropriate. Why don't we go B for Barney? So why don't we go B here and let you guys show this audience a little bit about what you do, and then we can talk a little bit more.
Mr. Root, you have your looper set up over there, don't you?
You know it.
And is your original sound set to on
Let's
the
try.
on the setting?
I
Because
think so.
On Zoom, sometimes if we loop on Zoom, we've discovered that sometimes sound drops out. But if you why don't you build a little beat, Mr. Root, and do something, and I can try to jump in and not mess you up.
All right, so let me try. So I think this time I will do the beats with all B's and see what I can come up with. How's that? That's not too loud, is it? How's that? That's not too loud, is it? Oops. How's that? That's not too loud, is it? Did the loop come in? That's looping, I'm assuming.
It sounds good. It sounds really good.
Barney. Hey, hey, B.
B.
So that's the coolest thing that's ever been done on Purple Roads by far. We've had some really cool people and some really cool things, but that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
If you could see my face, I couldn't stop smiling the whole time. And I think that's one of the things you bring right there. There is no way you can watch that and not smile. And it was the reaction I got when I watched your videos before. Where did the concept come of just sticking with the letter? So something so simple and just growing from there. Where did that come from?
Necessity is the mother and father of invention, right? So when COVID struck, I had just been on tour. I was coming off tour with Step Africa, and we just came from California. And I remember getting off the plane and walking through the terminal and seeing some people wear masks. And this was like the end of February, and I just thought that was weird. And I was like, well, I guess they're just wearing masks. Okay. I said, yes, that's good. And then I had a show on March 11th at Pershing Hill Elementary. And I was supposed to also be going on March the 12th. And I just had a bad feeling about it. And then I heard about this thing that wasn't a beer, and it was called the Corona. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, yeah, you know what? I don't think my kids are going to school on the 12th of March. And that was the beginning of all of this stuff. And I celebrated a milestone birthday for me. I turned 40. And on that birthday, Max was one of the people who came through. And a really good friend of mine by the name of Jay came through. And I've heard this advice before, but something about him giving Max and I this advice at the same time just really resonated with both of us simultaneously. And he said, I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube. You don't have enough content. Y'all should get up and meet with each other once a week or twice a week or something and just make something. And he says, it doesn't matter how good it looks. He said, it'll get better, but it won't get better if you don't start doing it. So I looked at Max. Max looked at me. We picked Thursday. So we started getting up on Thursdays between 3 p.m. and 6:15. Sometimes to the chagrin of our our homes, it would be a little bit longer than that. But yeah, we would meet up. And I remember the first 2 weeks we met up. The first week we didn't necessarily come up with anything, but we just hung out, which was more than enough. And then I think between the first and the second meeting, we just had an idea to do the alphabet. And Max said, oh, that's great. So we could do an alphabet for the first week. What are we going to do the next week? And I looked at him and I was like, nah, man, less is more. I said, let's go ahead and do one letter every week. And I said, we can explore that letter and explore all the sounds of that letter the whole week. And then Max was like, we shouldn't even talk. And I said, nah, we shouldn't. We should only communicate using those sounds for that particular week. And that's how Alpha Beats was born.
And it was such an interesting process because like Ruth said, like the first ones took a while, but by, halfway through the alphabet, we could just turn on the camera and just sit down and no plan, nothing, and hit record. And when we hit record to stop it, it was always right between like 9 and 10 minutes. Like no
every
script,
time.
nothing.
Yeah,
Very,
8 to 10. 8 to 10 every time. Yeah, and I think one thing that was cool, we did have a layout at first, so we went in tandem. So we had an opportunity where I would perform the letter, Max would perform the letter from his perspective, then we would kind of like jam out together, and then we would have a call and response where the audience would also be doing the letters and sounds with us. And then at the end, we did this really, I don't know what made us come up with it, but we just held our breath to see how long somebody can hold the note the longest. So if it was B, we just go, B.
Mr. Root always wins. Always wins.
B, 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 B. B. And then we would do that every week.
Incredible.
Well, I said we were going to have fun. If you didn't realize watching this, you're going to have a lot of fun. I love it. Well, I think that's the important aspect of this. You just kept it simple. Yeah. And one of the things, I'm so glad you brought this up, because obviously the pandemic it's still hitting. COVID is still hitting people when it comes to the social aspect and creative and all these things that it did. But I love that creative people found a way. It just didn't stop creative people. They jumped on Zoom, they jumped on different places, and they just threw things out there. And I love that. And I love the organic aspect of how you all put that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually one thing we did, because we are performance artists, I came up with this. I can't take all the credit for it. Creative Alliance, they had something called Sidewalk Serenades, where they would get individual artists and have them like, they would book a show, or a community would book a show, and you would perform from the porch, literally on the sidewalk, and serenade one household or multiple households. So then Max and I took it one step further, and we called it Baby Beats in the Streets. So we literally just book performances, and then would just go in the city, the greater metropolitan area, DC, Virginia, Maryland, Baltimore. We would do all those things and just perform like in someone's backyard or right on the steps. And it was such a beautiful and enriching experience, especially in a time where going outside felt like so much more of a privilege
Right.
than it did prior to 2019. So,
right. So Max, I want to ask you, when did music come in your life? And when did you decide that's one of the things you want to do?
My earliest memory of being fascinated by something sonically was my grandfather playing a piece of grass. If you've ever seen somebody take a blade of grass and make a very high-pitched sort of whistle sound by blowing through the grass or across it. I still don't know how to do that, actually. I'm trying to figure that out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That, and my grandpa also did like a violin. He did all kinds of interesting sounds. He was the head radio operator on the Coast Guard cutter Taney. So interesting guy. And so I got really into that. But I didn't study music. I didn't really start performing professionally until about 2010. And it was the opportunity was Young Audiences of Maryland, now Arts for Learning, and so I'm very grateful for that. And I was actually teaching. I was working as a teacher, and I was at a professional development where I met a beautiful soul named Pat Cruz, and Pat Cruz is our amazing mentor, Root as well. Best. So many people here in Baltimore and around the world actually, and she was doing a professional development about arts integration, which was a new term to me. And I was already on the way out of like my teaching work. Like it wasn't really a great fit for me. And so she said, well, you're a musician, or and somehow it came up, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm a beatboxer. You know, my extent the extent of my performance was doing like little 5-10 minute things on the stage, you know. And she was like, well, if you can come up with a 45-minute performance, you should audition. And I just went for it. And so I mean, literally, like, did not know what I was doing at all. But I showed up at a school one day where the audition was for like a live audience, and started to figure it out. And one thing that Root and I have worked with throughout the years is a loop pedal. He mentioned loop station, loop pedal real quick. And in case anyone in the audience isn't familiar with what that is, it's a device that allows us, and you heard Root use it just earlier, and here's a picture of one right here. For the audio listeners, it's basically just like a device that allows you to record a certain duration of sound, and then you can record layers on top of that and on top of that. Some loop stations are more, you know, advanced than others, but we use these pretty simple pedals where we just, but what that allows us to do, and it's crucial for us, is it allows us to create, you know, songs with multiple parts and textures. And so that's been fundamental for me as a musician. So I'm a voice musician, and I use looping to create much more complex textures.
Very cool. For you, Root, when did music come into your life?
In utero, actually. My mother always played music. My father always played music. He wasn't very consistent in my life in terms of like, you know, like day to day. But whenever I was in his car, he used to have and I actually have a playlist. I called it Burgundy Ragtop Cutlass Supreme. He used to have an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme with white walls on it, if you all are familiar. And it was a silver car, right? And with the velvety pleather or whatever, velvet upholstery on the inside with the bucket seats and all that, the massive steering wheel. And I remember just hearing all genres of music, primarily R&B, soca, calypso, and a little bit of reggae. I would hear that in the car. And then when I was home, I would hear more reggae. I would hear it would be nothing for me to hear like Hall & Oates, Prince, Lionel Richie, and Anita Baker in the same day. You know what I mean? And then I might hear a little bit of Sheila E. I might hear Gerald Alston from the Manhattans. I might hear the Drifters or Sam Cooke. I would hear all of that in the course of a day, because my mother would just put it on those JVC speakers with her component system that she had in the house, and it would feel like a party in my house when it was just, you know, just us. And I remember hearing that. I also played the saxophone for about 6 years. From a lot of people don't know that, but now a lot of people do know that. But so I used to do that, and I think that's what gave me my sense of timing in terms of how I deliver when I'm rapping. But ironically, beatboxing was the skill I picked up last. I wrote my first poems specifically in 8th grade, but the first time I wrote a rap, I didn't write it. I freestyled my first rap. I just still remember it, and I still remember it to this day. It had to do with the term bad meaning good, not bad meaning bad. And I had a good friend whose name was BJ, and I think this is very apropos on this show. So we had a clock radio with a tape recorder in it.
Okay.
And it was like an LCD clock radio. So you would put the radio in there. I mean, you put the cassette in there, 60-minute or 90-minute cassette or Maxell tape, put it in there, and I hit record. And that was the first time I heard what my voice sounded like to other people. So in my mind, my voice sounds like this all the time. But it doesn't sound like that to you all, right? So me and my little 8-year-old self, I played the recorder. I was like, hey, this is me. My name is Jamaal, and I'm out here. I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like, that's how I sound to everybody. So then I actually started doing some speech pathology and trying to like augment my voice so it can match how it sounded in my head.
Right.
And the first time I did it, I came up with the rap, and I said, yo, 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 listen up. BJ got some bad shoes. Nothing to do on the school. See your teacher, run away, do it every day. And I don't know why I said that. And I said, see your mama, don't say hi. just try and hide. I don't know why I was trying to hide or why I was running away from your teacher every day. Because I really wasn't doing that.
I
Like,
never heard this, Root. I never heard this in my life.
Yo, it's funny because the kids brought this out of me. Not my children, but I think students in my school brought it out because of the fact that they always ask me, how long have you been rapping? What's the first time you wrote a poem? Blah, blah, blah. And generally, I would say 8th grade. I was in Miss Turner's class, and she was an English teacher, and I had a book of poems. I still have the poetry binder somewhere in the house. And I thought that was when I first started. But for some reason, it just clipped my memory. I saw my friend BJ at a wedding in my neighborhood. Somebody in the neighborhood got married. And I saw him there, and I think that just sparked that memory. I saw him at the wedding maybe like 4 months ago. And that just came up in my brain, literally to the point where I called him, and I said, dude, you know, I wrote a rap about you back when I was like 9 years old. And he said, man, he said, you know, like most dudes, that's crazy. So then I just did it. And he just bust out laughing. And I said, dude, you used to have some really nice shoes. So I said, you had on some bad shoes, you know, and there was nothing to do at school. We just out here, you know, getting an education. So, but I'm sorry, that was way too long about the rap part. So I'll be brief with the beatboxing part. With beatboxing, I learned that last. There was a young lady by the name of Angie Carroll. She was in a group at Coppin State College at the time before it became Coppin University. And the group was called CSC Trilogy, which is an acronym for Coppin State College Trilogy. And when she would come out of her performance piece, she would go, iprow, 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 iprow. And she would back out. And then that would introduce another artist in her group to come in. And I thought that was amazing. And I went home and I was like, I could do that. Ewow, ewow, ewow. And it sounded awful. And I said, man, how'd you do that? So then I went through my mental Rolodex and I said, what sounds can I do really well? And I had like 2. It was like a helicopter noise. And then another sound. And I was like, that's not really necessarily a good sound, but those are the 2 sounds that I had that I could do. And then I said, And funny enough, I never really used the helicopter sound at all. And that was like one of my first ones I ever figured out how to do. But that's how that came about. And then when I would do open mics and perform, if I had drummers or people with instruments, I would emulate some of those instruments to help. So when I performed, they could help and support me when I was performing. And they really appreciated it because they could tell like I actually put forth effort as opposed to just trying to say, hey, play like this or do that with your keys or do that. I would literally like emulate it, or I would just say, hey, you know what? Whatever you all do, I'm going to do. I'm going to fall in and be an instrument with you all. And that was kind of like how that happened.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Boy, there's a lot of places to go from there. 2 in my head. 1, because of that, the type of music that you were listening to, Root.
Yeah.
Did that open up? Because I love the fact it kind of gives you different styles, right? Different genres. So you're not just locked into one.
Yeah.
That seems to be something you all are doing. You're really opening up what you do with your raps and with the beatboxing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's huge. So like, dude, Max will throw in polka at one point. You know, I'll pop some salsa in there. He'll pop, you know, he'll freestyle in Yiddish or something and say something really cool. You know what I'm saying? I'll toss some Spanish out there, patois really briefly, but always making sure that we're respectful of the cultures when we do it. You know what I mean? So in a way, sometimes we're giving you like a very limited scope because we know what things sound like, but we also want to make sure we're respectful of other cultures that are present. So generally, if we know other cultures are there, we'll ask people to come up and make some sounds or say some words, and then we'll incorporate that into our program.
Well, that's great. And then that just opens people up to want to go learn more, right?
Right.
You're kind of giving them that taste, and then they want to go and learn about these other cultures, which is awesome.
There's a great story, Carey, where we were performing at was it Park School, I think
it was,
and we have a song called Once where we count to 10 in French, Chinese, bunch of languages, Hebrew, and once we get to 10 we forget how to say 11, and then we go once, once, once. So once is 11 in Spanish, and it was this wonderful thing that unfolded where we were like, hey, is there anybody that speaks a language that we didn't sing in this song? And we got, it must have been like 4 or 5 different languages. Indonesian, like an Indonesian language.
Somebody came up and spoke
German.
Urdu. Yeah.
Yep. And it was, and what's so wonderful about that in that moment is, um, we saw such like pride, or I don't
Right.
know if pride's exactly the right word, but like such joy at being able to share,
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes, like if you're coming from, uh, a non-English culture, you might be hesitant sometimes, I think, to like share and be open about your culture, especially maybe you're a kid growing up in a home where your parents are first generation immigrants to United States, and we had these kids that were like all of a sudden able to be like very connected to their personal culture and sharing with everybody in the context of this music that we were making with our voice. And it was, I mean, an unforgettable moment. and
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
it was also great because it filled up like 25 minutes, so then we're like, show's over.
All right.
Well, it's such an important part of children's entertainment is the interaction, right?
Yes.
It's one of the reasons Barney was so successful, right? Because we were doing, Mr. Knickerbocker and with raindrops and those things, and that interaction and doing what that is just brilliant. And I can see, Max, how people everyone wants to show their culture, right? They're proud of who they are. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The other thing that I was thinking when you were talking, Root, was I want to hear from both you guys. What are the questions you get from kids? What do they want to know about you and what you do? What do you hear from them?
So, Max, you want to take that? Or you want me to hop in?
Well,
I want to hear from you both. So, Root, why don't you start?
Sure. Well, one thing I hear, I just heard that today. Hey, Mr. Root, are you famous? So I generally say, I feel I'm pretty important. And I feel you're pretty important too.
Yeah.
So I think, that's the most important thing. I know I said important a lot, but you are important. And then I would leave it at that. Or if I felt inclined to say, I'd say, I've performed in front of over 500,000 people. Does that make me famous? And they were like, yeah, he's famous. And I'd say, well, I don't really feel the finances of that famousness, but thanks.
Do they want you to teach them? Do they want to learn how to beatbox?
Yes, and I actually do a brief tutorial, and I definitely take credit from Max. I'll just say BTK is, and we could do it right here. I'll say BTK are 3 letters that vocal percussionists and beatboxers use at some point throughout their musicianship. They might not do it every day, but they use it a lot. So I'll say if you take, and then I add a little more. I said if you take the vowel sound off of the consonant of each letter, you have a plosive sound. So you say B, B, P, P, T, 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 K, K, right? So when you have that, you can layer that and do different sound combinations. So I would tell the children how to do that, which was really cool when they had their masks on. So then I'd say a little joke. I'd say, okay, well, you can really like spit all as you want because you have a mask on, so you're fine, right? But now I got to start evening it back because now the masks are like optional. So I got to be careful, like what grade I do that with.
Right.
But yeah, so we'll do that, and it's a really fun time.
Can I jump in there, Root? Because there's
Please.
something I can build off of that, which is, one of the great things that I think we can offer to our audiences is a more critical listening of music, because it's very simple, where you don't have a whole band playing all this different stuff. That can be overwhelming to try to pick apart. Like as a producer as well, like I noticed one of my skills is that I've developed over the years is I can listen to a song and I can hear any layer very closely, and I can hear, and when I talk to my wife or something about it, she has no idea what I'm like, oh, did you hear that bass change right there? She's like, what? And so I realized it's just a skill that's cultivated over time. Anybody can do it if they practice it. With beatboxing, what we're doing is it's simple enough that we can actually demonstrate. So like kids often ask me, like, how do you do so many sounds at the same time? And I love to say, well, it's not at the same time. It's actually a sequence of sounds. In some cases, a very intricate sequence of sounds. But the sounds are actually occurring one after the other, not at the same time. And so, for example, like if you hear a rhythm like... you have, to a lot of people, that sounds like the sounds are all happening at the same time, right?
I'm sorry, sir. We're not going to act like you didn't just do that, okay?
I'm glad you said that, Root, because I was like,
Yeah, so let's just acknowledge how dope that was,
Yeah, I was like, you
how
just
amazing
dropped
that
that
was,
right on.
and then we can proceed.
I
I'm over here
appreciate
going
I
buh buh
appreciate
buh
that,
buh,
guys.
and you just did a whole show just now.
Well, and don't sleep on Root either. If you come see a show, you'll see Root is nasty. But just to the point of what that is, like a lot of people hear that as sounds happening at the same time. But then as beatboxers, we can go, no, check this out. It's this sound. Then we add a conga sound. Now you hear those two sounds. Now let's add the snare. And we can do this just at the same time that we're talking, which is really cool. Like if you were trying to do that on drums, it would be tricky, or trying to do that on bass, it would be tricky. We just have a mic in front of our face, so we can illustrate these very complex ideas in music. And a 1-year-old who can't even talk can see that and go, in their minds,
Right.
okay, so these notes are happening in a sequence.
Yeah, and that's exactly how they talk in their minds too, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I did when I was a 1-year-old. And then from that, they'll take that and then go, and I'm like, yes, they got it.
Yes,
they got it.
That's the other
That's
thing.
it.
So they can immediately apply what they're learning, what they're experiencing. So there's no that's what's beautiful about beatboxing. There's no proxy. There's nothing in between. It's your body, and you can do it, and you can do it in your own way. You know, there's your bass sound. Even Root and I, we sound very different when we beatbox, and it's because of our bodies and our practice and our influences.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
So let's talk, guys, about the show. Let's talk about what the Beatbox Dads, where you guys are going to go. I know you've got one of your shows on a streaming network. I know you're doing some performance, but let's talk about what you're doing and where you want to go with this.
Oh man, so many good places. So I guess since you just finished up, I'll hop in here. Max and I, we really admire Fly Guy. And we love the fact that he has a book. So Max and I are actually actively both working on getting books illustrated and getting those done so we can have that in our arsenal. We're also doing a lot of festivals, and we're definitely pushing our relationship with Sensical and getting as many people to view us there as possible. And what we love about Sensical is that it is all in-house, right? So any advertisements you see, any marketing campaigns you see, it's all based on the people who are making the children's content on that site already, on that streaming service. So you don't have to necessarily, without me, saying the names of other streaming services or different platforms, you don't have to worry about your children idly going into a place that you don't necessarily want them to go when you're not around. All the content is curated to benefit, educate, and uplift the children. And I love that. I love that.
They've got a great app too. If you like apps, you can download the Sensical app. And what we have on there is the Alpha Beats project. So that's big for us. We want to do more. Like Ruth said, we're working on books. We want to do more with the video series. We're working on the Alpha Beats Part 2, where we're gonna get into some different. I mean, we can't do the alphabet again necessarily, but it's gonna be like related and a similar vibe. And as Ruth said, like Sensical has been a really beautiful partnership because they're very organic and they're very fair with how they work. So I can't really say enough about those folks. Other than that too, we are, I think it would probably be fair to mention that we're really interested in traveling. So we're starting to get opportunities to travel outside of, well, Ruth's been all over the place already. I mean, he's been to Costa Rica, to Panama. So we like the idea of traveling internationally because of our language connections and because of the sort of universal nature of beatboxing. Beatboxing is a really global art form right now. So I think that there's a lot of really cool possibilities with traveling. What else, Root? What else do we want to do?
Yeah. Well, shoot, I think you pretty much nailed it on the head there. So I think less is more is good. So there are other things we definitely want to do, but I think that like those things that we just mentioned are some of our main cultivators. Like we're kind of like really cultivating and germinating those seeds to really help them grow. So yeah, definitely festivals. Definitely still getting into the studio and making music. So Max and I have like 3 or 4, maybe like 5 songs that are complete, and we're working on adding some more so we can do that. So we have play mode on Bandcamp already right now. And what makes Bandcamp so cool is that you actually get a chance to maximize your profit margin, as opposed to, getting a quarter of a shilling
Right.
on some of the other digital ISPs.
Right.
So we've been holding fast to it being there, and it'll more than likely be on one of the other more popular ISPs, like your Tidal or
Right.
your iTunes and so on. But we wanted to really, really like push Bandcamp because it really takes care of the artist more than most other streaming platforms do.
I love that. Will there be a whole album?
Oh yeah, Play Mode is a full album.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have that on there, and we'll provide the link for you all shortly after this meeting. But
yes, we will promote like crazy. We will get you guys out there. Don't worry about that. So let's talk about the live show. Is it just organic? Do you kind of have a feel for what you're doing when you get out there?
Yeah, we have a set list.
Okay.
We often put together the set list, and then Root will often just go. He'll start on song 8, and I'll go, yeah, let's go. But our set is pretty. It's us.
Okay.
It's Max. It's Root. It's 2 microphones. We have 2 loop pedals, and it's super energy intensive. So we are going to lose weight during the show, which is good for us. 40 something guys. Like, it's super active. It's interactive. So we do try to engage people, linguistically through, like, call and response is a big thing that we do, but we're also we have some very I guess direct. At one point, my brother, who's a really brilliant guy, came to see a show, and he was like, hey, just a small piece of advice. If you want people to do something, tell them to do it exactly. Because I think that I was struggling for a long time, like, to try to how to link with audiences. And I guess that was a big thing for me anyway, was just like, oh, if you want people to jump, tell them to jump. If you want them to do this, tell them. So that was very influential. So we have a lot of movement stuff as well, where it mixes really well with the beatboxing, like, and we're working on stuff now where, like, Mr. Root, we do a thing called robot versus
Running Man.
Robot versus Running Man, 2 old school dances, right? And so Mr. Root, poor Mr. Root, I really feel bad for him, especially like when we're at a show where it's like 100+ degrees. But I'll do these beatboxing rhythms, and one rhythm is for one dance, and the other rhythm is for the other dance. And when I switch the rhythm, Mr. Root has to switch the dance. And so the people in the audience are doing it too. And so it's music recognition, it's body awareness, it's steady beat awareness. And so there's a lot, like, I think, like you're picking up on, Carey, there's a lot that's packed into this. It's like sort of like DNA, like it's super packed in there. And we're just really lucky to sort of realize we stumble over these things. Wow, like, well, this is this and this is so. When we do a show, we love to have like a lot of bass. So one thing that's great for beatboxing is to have like a nice thumping bass.
Yeah. So the subwoofer action is ideal.
Yes. So as long as we got a nice bass response, we're good to go. But I would say one more thing. It would be beautiful to be able to travel and do these festivals, but also to do local, smaller community shows at the same time. So I think for me, that's the vision, is like, go do these big festivals. We're going to be at like Richmond Folk Festival coming up in October 8th and 9th, and that's beautiful. But like, if we could string some of these things together and then do shows, and and I'm thinking also, like, can we do this? This is just an open-ended question, but like, could we do this for people living in assisted living homes?
Right.
Like, I have not had the opportunity to do that, and yet I'm like, I think this would work, to engage people in that way as well. So I would love that to come to pass.
Yeah, and I think, and to add, to dovetail that, because I don't say piggyback all the time, because we need piggies for whatever reason, you know what I mean? They're part of the ecosystem. So to dovetail that, I actually did some work with the Department of Aging last year during COVID, which was amazing, and all I did was tell stories, right? So imagine us telling stories with audio enhancements, with the beatboxing in the background and different things. And I think that would be amazing. So we could definitely do that. It's been done, because I've literally done it. I don't remember if you and I spoke about it, Max, but I really like the way that sounds. because there's so much versatility in us being the Beatbox Dads as
Right.
opposed to us restricting ourselves. Because originally we were called Baby Beats, and I had the idea to call us Beatbox Dads because that makes us more accessible to every age, as opposed to, after about 8 or 9 years old, kids don't want to be called, actually around 7, kids don't want to be called babies anymore. So they don't want to go, I don't want to go anything that has baby beats at it. I'm an adult 7-year-old. You know what I mean? So yes, I definitely really like that. But no, Max definitely hit it on the head. Us traveling is important. So when I traveled to Costa Rica for the first time, it was under the Baby Beats Beatbox Dads umbrella.
Okay.
So I definitely promoted that. So Baby Beats, even though Max wasn't with me, Baby Beats and the Beatbox Dads made it out the country first before I made it out the country as a solo artist, which was really cool. So I definitely love the power of two and the duality of how the two of us work together in tandem. It's just a very powerful force. It also takes the load off of you on stage, right? So you can look to
Right.
your left and take a little breather for a few minutes,
Right.
and then we kind of share our strengths and weaknesses with each other on stage.
Yeah, to your question, like I think that's one of the coolest things about our stage show is there are times where it's all blending together, and it actually is difficult to tell who's doing what because we're using similar techniques, and I think that's super, super interesting for the audience.
Well, and the fact that it's all happening,
Right.
right? There's a plan, but a lot of this you're just playing off of each other. Is that not correct?
100%.
100%.
What people shout stuff at us from the audience, or we see something in the audience. When the Root is an amazing freestyle rapper. So like we do stuff where we'll have like, hey, just bring 20 objects out of the audience, and this guy will put together a song about these 20 objects on the spot. So yes, the show is very improvisational, but it's Root. Like we have these songs that you like. A lot of the songs are in play mode, the album, but there a lot of them are new that they sort of like keep the thing from coming off the rails. You know,
Right.
like, improvisation is a dangerous game, and like it's always good to have some things that you can come back to.
Absolutely.
Are people starting to know your songs? Are they coming to shows now and being aware of the songs?
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
that's so awesome to get a request from a child or an adult to say, hey, do the breakfast rap. Hey, you got to do stomp clap. You got to do my banana. Like all these songs, it's so awesome and amazing and humbling. Like it's just awesome that they literally listen, because we're still handing out CDs, Carey.
Right.
Remember those?
I do.
So we're still,
I do.
and the three of us, we remember, 8 tracks, vinyl, cassettes, and it's just a crazy thing. So people are memorizing these songs just based off the CDs that we're handing out. So I think that's beautiful, and the kids know it. Like I just love the fact that the kids know it.
I love it. Well, could you give us one of those songs?
Sure. Which one you want, Max? What you think? Oh, we could do
Well-
breakfast rap. Want to do breakfast rap?
Yes, the only concern is that we'll be lagging, I think, Carey. If I try to beatbox while Mr. Root is rapping, I think there will be some lag.
Okay.
But I think Root would if you're open to it, Root, you could do breakfast rap, loop up a beat on the loop station, and then hit it for folks.
Okay, cool. All right, so Carey, I'm gonna need you to participate, sir.
Okay.
Just pretend like you're a 7-year-old who really enjoys the show.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Let's see what we got here.
I'm already dancing.
I see. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
It happens. It happens.
Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Yeah, we're just gonna go and keep that in the show. All right, here we go. Okay, I woke up, it was a beautiful morning. Started my day off stretching and
Yawning.
I hopped up and I stretched my feet. Then I went to the bathroom to brush my
Teeth.
Carey, where you at, man? Wash my face to make it complete. And then I went into the kitchen to get something to
Eat.
Yes. I was famished. My hunger was real. I had some waffles and then some oat.
Meal.
And then I had cereal too. I had a glass of water and a cup of orange
Juice.
boom, 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 boom. After that, I was feeling okay, well fed and prepared to start the rest of my
Day.
I had to go and drive real far, so I got my keys and I hopped in my
Car.
meh, meh. Looked outside. Oh no, it was madness. So many cars, I was stuck in.
Traffic.
But I didn't get mad, I kept it cool. Now I'm here on Purple Roads with all of you.
That's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. No, but the kids get it. The kids get, but normally I'll say cool and then rhyme it with school to make it easier. But what's fun is that even 3-year-olds, when I say looked outside, oh no, it was madness. So many cars I was stuck in. The 3-year-olds will say traffic. And all of the parents and adults in the room will be amazed because that's not even an exact rhyme. That's a slant rhyme or a near rhyme. But what I do with the breakfast rap, which I didn't necessarily realize at the time, I'm giving you so many breadcrumbs to what the rhyming word is going to be that like I'm almost ensuring your success, even if you don't know what the word rhymes with. You know it's coming. So I woke up, it was a beautiful morning, started my day off stretching, and everybody knows what that is, right?
Right.
And even that's a near rhyme. So it's really cool to hear that the children are, and they're even aware sometimes when I'm coming close to the end of a song. I think that's really good too.
The whole thing's brilliant. I can't stop smiling. I don't know what the world's going on, but it just doesn't matter, right? You're just jumping in, right? I mean, that's the whole point. It's fun, and it's, there's nothing wrong with you miss one or whatever it may be. I love that. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, this has just been such a pleasure. This has been such a pleasure hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, same. Likewise.
Same. Thank you so much.
So kind of finish up here and just tell me we talked a little bit about it, but what's coming up next? We're going to see you. Are you guys out performing this summer?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
All over the place.
All right. So hold on. Let me get my my trusty analog calendar here.
Okay.
Fill each other in because people just say, let me look at my phone.
Right.
Anyone that's like sort of in the Richmond area, Richmond, Virginia, you should definitely come to the Richmond Folk Fest. That's going on October 8th and 9th. We'll be there doing shows both on the Saturday and the Sunday. Other than that, what else would you want to mention, Mr. Root?
All right. Yeah, so we'll start from June. So what are we doing? On the 23rd, we're going to be in Frederick, Maryland at the Summer Fest and Family Theater. That's going to be at 10 a.m. And then directly after that, we're going to be at the Gordon Center in Baltimore. Baltimore County, Baltimore City, actually, I'm sorry, at the JCC Gordon Center. That'll be at about 2 o'clock. That'll be amazing and fun. Let me see, what else are we doing? Are we doing anything in July? Yes, we're going to be at Arundel Library in Arundel County, Maryland. We're going to have 2 shows, a 10 a.m., a 10:30 show in Annapolis and a 1 p.m. show in Edgewater. And then we will have another 10 a.m. show in Annapolis at the Mountain Water Library branch. Hopefully I said that correctly. And then also our favorite place to have a show. We're going to be doing the Watermelon Festival in DC with Baba Bomani. That's going to be in the District of Columbia. That's going to be on August the 6th. That's from 3 to 8 p.m. And if you go there, they'll literally be cutting fruits and vegetables all day from 3 to 8.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
Yeah. And then on September 3rd, we have Zoobop at the Maryland Zoo. And that'll be between 10 to 2. So, and we're still filling up stuff. So I know in October we're looking to do something in Montgomery County Mall, Montgomery County, Maryland. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff in Virginia and Maryland and DC, but we love the area, but we want to get out of there. So call us out.
And I think that's going to happen sooner or later. That's going to happen, and you guys are going to get out. I mean, everyone's going to love what you all are doing. I mean, this is just fabulous.
And thank you, Carey. And if you're on social media, I know not everybody is, but if you can follow Beatbox Dads, we post about what's coming up too. So that's maybe an easier way to do it too. Is just Beatbox Dads Instagram, Beatbox Dads Facebook, and also beatboxdads.com. So we post shows there as well.
Awesome. And Purple Roads will connect to everything and share it and all of that stuff. We're big on social media, so we will put all that out. Can you guys give me something to finish up?
Sure.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Max. You can take it away.
I love being able to just put you guys on the spot.
Yeah, we put ourselves on the spot all the time, so I guess that's what makes it a little.
All right, so here's a mysterious sound from the Beatbox Dads to you. This is the sound of the human didgeridoo.
Oh my gosh, too much fun.
Thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. You're too kind.
I enjoyed it. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carey.
Thank you, Carey. We really appreciate this.
Hey, we'll have to have you back, and because I have no doubts you guys are going to just keep going and going and going, and we'll have to let people know where you are. We'll bring you back.
Please do. Anytime you need us, we're here.
Hey, thank you. And thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you next week.